Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining this ward meeting, a joint ward meeting of sites Yardley and Yardley West and Stechford. On the agenda today, we have somebody from Public Health who's going to give us an update. We've also got the Sergeant from Stechford, Sgt Mahmoud, and we'll have an update on the Commonwealth Games regarding the funding and how we're going to go about applying for that funding and have to put a ward plan together. We'll also have a councillor's update, and finally we'll take any other business. I will have questions from the residents if they want to ask us anything. And if there's anything that you do want to ask, please raise your hands, and also make sure that your mic is always on mute if you're not looking to talk, because we'll have interference otherwise. Okay, can we get Councillor Chowdhury just to say welcome to the residents as well before we make a start?
Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
Okay, can we, with the first item on the agenda, can we get an update from Public Health, please? Darren Fahey, please.
Yeah, no problem. Forgive me, I'm doing this from my house in Dublin, so I may not understand all the kind of nuances of the different wards, but from what I can see overall, so the 7-day case rate between over the last week or so is now 20. For Birmingham as a whole is about 22 cases per 100,000, which is kind of trending in the right direction. So previously it was up to around 31, 40 cases per 100,000, which is now the 74th highest in the UK. The spread, I think, for Birmingham as a whole seems to be primarily occurring through household, social and workplace interactions. Although I think before the Easter break, it's probably not surprising, there was evidence of an increased spread in the schools, and hospital admissions are still trending in the right way. The range between about 1 and 8 new cases a day at University Hospital Birmingham. So I think probably the most important thing to consider is more about how you compare to what's happening nationally. So you've got effectively, I think, your own rate, or in South Yardley ward, ranks 20th out of the 69 wards for the number of COVID cases, whereas the first is the highest, and 9 reported cases. So you're in South Yardley, I think you're just trending a little bit more above the average, because you're at around 37 per 100,000 in the population, comparing to a rate of 22 around that per 100,000 cases in Birmingham. So just keep going down here for a sec. Then you've got Yardley West and Stechford ward. It's kind of pretty much the same, you know. It ranks 20th out of the 69 wards. So similar kind of rates. You're up, but you're just a little bit above the average, but in terms of what's happening in Birmingham, but nothing to be kind of too alarmed about. You're kind of in the middle, as it were. And then I can break it down if you want in terms of ethnicity. But fundamentally, I suppose the message I would say to you is just, it seems like you're kind of right now just somewhere in the middle there, just nothing to be overly alarmed about, but I think your rates are okay, but just everybody has to kind of adhere to the same messaging that we've been trying to give out to, you know, everyone regionally or locally. I'm not sure how long you want me to get into the detail of some of this.
Well, is there like, when you're saying Yardley, between Yardley West and South Yardley, how would you say we compare with the other, like any other neighbouring wards? Are we a lot better than them, or is there much difference?
So I think you're ranking kind of somewhere in the middle, kind of 20th out of 69. So you're above the average in terms of, in a positive way, in terms of your incidence rates. So there's nothing kind of jumping out for me anyway. Nothing that's jumping out that's very alarming. So I think it's just a case of, just adhering to the same kind of messages that we've been trying to, convey to, whatever it is, whether it's your ward or whether it's Birmingham. So I think at the moment, there's nothing in the figures when I look at them that makes me alarmed.
Okay. Well, we've got a couple of questions. Well, we'll take questions as, if anybody wants to put the questions up, well, they can ask us and we can read them out if they want to put it in the chat. I got a question. Have these wards any COVID champions? How many COVID champions do we have in these wards?
Well, I think you have 2 COVID champions in the South Yardley ward.
Okay, and Yardley West?
Just bear with me 1 sec. It looks like you've got 2 in both. So it looks like you've got 4 in total.
Okay, and what is the total amount across Birmingham at the moment? How many is it?
It's about 800.
Okay, so
yeah. So I mean, if there was a way that you could get more COVID champions, that would be very helpful from a public health perspective.
Okay, and what has been the uptake? With the vaccination in these wards. What are the figures like?
See, that's kind of I don't get those figures because it's more of an NHS thing than in terms of vaccination numbers. But it seems like you're trending in the right way. That kind of information is more about the you need your CCG. Will probably give you those figures. We don't get it as a local authority.
Okay. Councillor Zakir, is there any questions that you want to ask public health?
Right. Vaccination. So you haven't got any update on how many residents in our wards had so far? Or is that with the NHS?
It's with the NHS, I'm sorry. I don't get that kind of information.
And the champions, we got 2 in each wards.
It looks like it, yeah.
Okay.
2 in each ward, yeah.
If somebody want to become a champion, what do they have to do?
Well, you can send me an email, and I can make that happen. So just let me know if you think you have people who feel like they want to be a champion, which would be great. Then I'll give you my own my Birmingham address, my email, and I can make it happen.
Right, that's fine. So we make awareness that you're the right.
Yeah, you can put me down as the contact point if you want.
Right. Okay, that's fine. We will do that. Thank you.
No problem.
Councillor, I think if that's all the questions, can move on to the next agenda item.
Okay, if there's no more questions, then we can move on to the next item on the agenda. Is that okay? Okay, Darim, thank you for attending.
No problem.
We can move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you for your update.
No problem. Sure, pleasure.
Okay, the next item is the Commonwealth Games and funding that we've been allocated. But to get that funding, we need to put a ward plan together, and that's where we need to discuss with yourselves what best is like, how to put a ward plan together, what we need, what are the essential things that we are needed in the ward before we can put a plan together. So I'm not sure, Beverly, is there anything that we can say on this?
Yes,
Or is
Councillor. Yes, Councillor. Evening, everyone. What I'd just like to say is what we need from residents is to work with your respective councillors to identify, what you think is a priority for your ward. The idea was that each ward, the idea is that each ward must have a ward plan, and initially the ward plan was supposed to be for the tenure of the councillor, so it would be all for each councillor, so for 4 years, due to expire next year when we've got the all-out elections. But we're at the stage now where not every ward has done a ward plan. So what we need for you to happen is for each ward, the residents in each ward to actually sit or discuss with their councillors, whether it's email, telephone call, or what have you. Identify your key priorities. What are your key concerns in the ward? Put that together. And once it's all agreed and signed off, we can put that forward, because that will then enable your ward to access the Commonwealth Games celebrating communities fund, because without a ward plan in place and the priorities, wards aren't able to access that particular fund. So it's really important for both wards to get to sit with your residents or to contact your residents and to identify your key priorities. It hasn't got to be a lot, just 2 or 3 is absolutely fine.
So, sorry, Bev, Councillor Chowdhury, could you give us some examples of what priorities they should be?
It's up to, it could be anything, Councillor. It could be, whether it's to do with, maintaining open space, clean and green, some wards, parking is an issue, speeding's an issue, things like that. You will find that whatever residents have been contacting you with, whether through your advice bureau or through your meetings or through the forums, through your meetings, you'll have a flavour of what the concerns are in your ward, and what you need to do is to pick those ones out and see what's manageable and what isn't manageable. But it's just speaking to residents and finding out what their key concerns are. So whether in your part of the ward, whether it's like litter or more activities for young people or something, I don't know, anything that comes, but whatever your priorities are, whatever your residents' concerns are, those are sort of things that you need to look at and to put in your ward plan. It's not for us as officers to tell you what should go into your plan. You need to actually work with residents to identify what the concerns are.
Right. Okay. So that includes litter and all the ward issues.
Yeah, it could be litter, it could be speeding, parking, the usual things that we get coming through ward meetings. But but it hasn't got to be those things. It could be something else. Maybe residents might want to do more activities together. Form a walking group or something, but they haven't got any way to sort of facilitate that. So, and that could be a priority, getting people together to do it. Exercise, whether it's through walking or outdoor activities, that sort of stuff. But you need to, it's something that's got to be residents and councillor led.
Right. Okay. That's fine. So long as we know what our priorities are, and then we'll try to deal with those. Thank you very much.
Okay, Beverly, do we have a slide that we can share with the residents?
Yes, Pat, my colleague, is going to put the slide up, and there's a note in the chat box as well that Pat's put in, and it's again, when you're looking at your ward plan and your priorities with the fund as well, you've got the main areas of the funding, which is getting active, ready, steady, fun, and I can't see the other one because there's something there, and celebrating culture. So those are sort of things, but it will become a little bit more clearer in the slide. But what you need to do as a ward you know, you should know what the real concerns are in your ward. So those are sort of things that you need to sort of pick up and to work with residents to see how you're going to address them. So Pat's got the slide up now. Okay.
Sorry, councillors, I'm multitasking here. I'm just going to quickly run through the slides just for those that are viewing. We will put the slide in the chat box, as well as send it out to groups and individuals should they wish. I think Bev's covered most of the elements of the funding, so if you excuse me, I'm just trying to move my mouse about. What is Celebrating Community is a small funding grant which is universally around the Commonwealth Games. And just quickly going through the grant is to run initiative which delivers within the three theme groups, and they are Get Active, Ready, Steady, Fun, and Celebrating Culture. So I'll just jump on. Getting active, and you can see from the description there, it's about active mobility, providing an opportunity for local residents, groups and organisation to increase activities within their area. It could be walking, it could be cycling, doing community games or sports days, which brings people together, as I've said. For example, it could be around the Commonwealth Games theme. Some of the competitions that is taking part in the games, it may be something you want to do locally. And active streets and park, developing something in your local area connected to streets, parks and public open spaces. Under the Ready Steady Fund, that will align with Games Ready, so it could be a spring cleanup in particular streets or green areas, planting, probably doing a floral display which celebrates the Commonwealth, so it could be floral display around the flags, bunting or memorabilia, and also celebrating communities and having fun, working with diverse communities to ensure there's a range of events. And we've got here street parties and picnics that help to connect citizens and foster civic pride and local pride as well. I should say, regarding street parties, which I think most people that I've spoken to were looking at, but it's there's more than just street parties. We need to also look at what legacy we leave behind, which takes me to the next funding stream, which is Celebrating Culture. And that's about looking at intergenerational activities, which brings together the Commonwealth. Birmingham has a legacy, and there are unheard stories, history, places of interest. You know, there may be some local historical places within your area that we need to celebrate and bring people together and be proud to say being a Brummie. So those are the three elements regarding the community, Celebrating Communities Fund. As Bev said, it's linked to the ward plan, so it's about how the community helps and assists local councils as yourself to look at priorities and to develop your ward plan, which will be unique to yourself. There is a process, and all proposals must be compiled and be approved by Ward Forum, which is a forum we're sitting in at the moment. So any group, unconstituted, small organisations can apply or make an expression of interest to apply for some of the funding that is available in your ward. And just to make it known, in South Yardley, the funding that is awarded to South Yardley is £14,300 under the Celebrating Communities programme. And for Yardley West and Stechford, it is £17,500. So it's not a great amount of money, but you know, there's a lot the ward can do, working with other organisations, anchor groups, to put on a good show leading up to the Commonwealth Games. there are 2 rounds of funding available. This year, the first closing date is in June, and the next one will be September, to be released around February next year. Now, given that these your two wards have just started on your ward plan, I'm not sure whether or not you have enough time between now and June to get your plan together, and also to have the conversations with interested party. It will probably be more than likely to be around October. But the funding won't be lost, it will be carried over into the next financial year, but it should be committed and be spent by August 2022. I think at this point, Councillor, I'll leave the presentation at this point. If anyone has any questions, to put it in the chat, and I'll take questions.
Right, sorry, can I come in for a quick question?
By all means, Councillor.
Yeah, all right, okay. Okay, so how many groups, how many people can apply? Just for basic information for the residents who are listening. How many people, you know, anybody could apply for that?
There is no limit to it's not individuals, there's obviously groups and organisations associated. If it's a group of residents don't want to put in a proposal, they're more than welcome to do that. But the decision in terms of where the funding goes will be down to the ward itself. So you as elected members, with conversations with residents and stakeholders, will make the decision. If, for instance, we get, for argument's sake, 10 proposals and they're all asking for, I know, the full amount, then obviously there will need to be some discussion around which of the 10 would be put forward, whether or not it hits the priorities for your ward. And it's covered under the 3 areas that I've outlined in terms of getting active, ready, steady, fun, or celebrating culture.
Okay. Can anybody apply outside of the board as well?
No, it's not advisable because the funding is for the ward, not for external. If there are joint pieces of work that one ward wants to do with another, then that's a conversation as elected members you would have with your respective in that ward and the organisation. But it's really for the ward rather than external.
Right, okay, these are the questions I'm just asking for general public, so they are aware of this.
Can we, Andy, you got your hand up?
Yes, I just wanted to ask the elected members if they were considering joint projects. So, for example, if we proposed a celebration on the Oaklands, which neighbours both wards, would you consider a joint project like that?
Well, at the moment, we can't give you definite answers. We'll consider anything, any options and the bids. Once we receive the bids, then we will consider the options.
Okay. And I would say this the same as well. Literally, we're looking for people like groups to put in their proposals. We're going to look at them, and if, for example, if you want to do something at the Oaklands, then it wouldn't just be my ward and South Yardley. We'd be looking for Tyseley and Hay Mills as well. So it's, we have to first, we're going to have to look at proposals and see what do our residents actually benefit from any events that we're looking to hold, and then see how best we can work together on them.
That's good to know and helpful. So I think the important thing is to get the ward plans done.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. That's what we're going to start up now. And once the ward plan is done, then we will accept the bids. I mean, wherever they come from within our wards, and then we'll make a decision. Is that all right, Andy?
Okay, Nadeem, Stechford Village, you got your hands up?
Yeah, hi, Councillor Baz. Really good to kind of be part of this session. So I attended a ward meeting last week, and it was for Councillor Eustace's ward. A very similar discussion. The agenda was very similar, talked about the grant. And I think Councillor Eustace's patch, we cover both sides. We cover your side and also Councillor Eustace's patch. Councillor Eustace indicated at his ward meeting that his ward plans have been done. And I was just essentially thinking, because we've got a very detailed plan of what we as a village forum want to kind of work in terms of activities. Now, looking at what the grants will be essentially delivered against, the three themes that you've spoken about: getting active, ready, steady funds, celebrating culture. So we as a village forum, as you know, Councillor Baz, we've been behind major campaigns in Stechford, namely Stechford in Bloom, the big lunch, the big tidy up, station adopters, station accessibility, and more. So it's my belief then that the activities that we're planning and would propose would very much align with these three themes. Now, I've got a meeting, or had a meeting today, with James Carlos from Birmingham City Council, the East Birmingham Inclusive Growth Strategy. And one of the ideas is to essentially meet up with both yourself and Councillor Eustace as soon as possible timescale. I've got a meeting potentially next Thursday, if you're available. So we could essentially meet up to plot out, so understand what we need. We know what we need to apply for, but what we just need to understand is which councillors and which council wards we need to apply to. So many of our areas around Stechford cross over into Councillor Eustace's area, some cross over into yours. I'm just thinking in your area, for example, I'm thinking the Stechford Recreation Ground on Yardley Fields. So that's an area where we would potentially plan to undertake particular activities. All I would need to know essentially is what amount of money we as the village forum could potentially apply for. And if that's something we need to do in person to have a meeting, I'm very open to that. Because I'd like to potentially apply, if we can get these ward plans done before June, that'd be great, because I'd like to apply for these funds before June, to be honest. But whether that's practical, I don't know. If somebody can give me some advice and guidance on that, would be very helpful.
Okay, thank you, Nadeem. Well, we've got a ward meeting arranged for the 10th of May, where we're going to be looking to put the ward plan together. So that's the date for your diary, the 10th of May at 6 o'clock. Right, and I've had a brief discussion with Neil as well regarding putting projects together, and I said, well, let's see what ideas are brought forward, and then, you know, we can work together, because Stechford is divided between me, Neil, and Glebe and Tile Cross. So yeah, there's no mention of Glebe and Tile Cross, that you've not mentioned them, and that's something that I want to see as well, because if we're going to be benefiting the residents of Stechford, right, then I'd like for them to be contributing as well.
No, I get that, Councillor, but I'm also mindful where it was just, I think it was Beverly just delivered the presentation, mentioned that there's not a huge amount in each ward. I think you've mentioned £14,500 and £17,500 respectively. Now, depending on the numbers of groups that would potentially apply for these funds, there's not a huge amount that could be kind of divided up. So I'm mindful of not encroaching into other areas where there's potentially, I mean, there might be potentially people, as you mentioned, in you know, the Hodge Hill constituency that borders into Stechford, that community groups down there may apply to you potentially for, or Councillor Eustace for funds. So there is going to be that crossover, and naturally I expect that. But it's a way of ensuring that the Stechford Village Neighbourhood Forum can maximise funds to deliver the activities and projects, not just for this year, but for the next financial year. So I'm happy to meet up either at your ward meeting in May. Separately, I've got a meeting set up and penciled in, a Zoom call next Thursday at 3 o'clock. And if you're happy to attend that, I'll send you the invite. But I'd just like to kind of, you know, accelerate this in the fastest, as soon as possible timescale, if possible.
No, that's fine. Literally, we can, you know, we can always have a Zoom meeting and discuss where our priorities are, and like, because obviously I want to allocate this money to the groups that are actually already working, delivering for the people of Stechford and Yardley West. I don't really want to see outsiders come in and, you know, because I've not really seen or heard of them for the last 3 years, right? So there is a couple of organizations that have actually been working in the ward. So I believe they should have the first priority, and hopefully we don't really need to be looking outside the ward for any other organizations to come in.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, and you know, Pat, there's a question, right? Literally, say if we were to have a joint, if like both the wards would like to have a joint event, right? Is there a certain amount that we could like put in, or is there like a limit to how much we could actually contribute towards that, or?
Sorry, Councillor, it would be a conversation that yourself and your respective colleagues would have. I couldn't give you an answer, not knowing what the proposal is at this moment. That's very difficult to answer.
Yeah. Sorry, can I come in? That's why I said, you know, we will have a discussion. We will invite all the residents or groups to put their application in, and then we will make final decision. Is that right?
That's correct. I think the conversation that has been suggested from the forum, if you're having a conversation with James Carlos from the region, it may be useful to get an idea from James and planning. That would also probably assist with your ward plans, both your ward plans for the future. If you're able to attend that meeting next week, that would be quite advisable.
Yeah, I've spoken to James as well, so I think there is quite a vision for the area. It's just a case of getting it in the ward plans.
Yeah.
Councillor Darren's got his hand up.
I was just going to say, Darren, do you want to come in?
Yeah, just I think that the challenge that we're all facing at the moment is that it's an ever-moving feast. So we're trying to make plans, but we don't know what the virus is going to do and how it's going to behave and how we're going to respond to it. So, and particularly between two different wards, there may well be more restrictions that will come into play. Hopefully not, but it's just something to kind of consider when you're making your plans.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I mean, it's not till 2022, so
Yeah,
I
no,
think
sure.
we've
Okay.
got a bit of time. We don't need to worry. You can't look at the current situation because in 2022 it can be completely different.
Yeah, it's just something to bear in mind. That's all I'd say, you know.
Yeah, I think we have to consider all the options.
Yeah.
Okay, Beverly, do we have the dates for the ward meeting for South Yardley and my ward for when we're going to be putting this ward plan together?
Yeah, yes, Councillor. I've just popped them in the chat box, but just for those who haven't seen it in the chat box, your ward, Councillor Baz, your meeting will be arranged for Monday, the 10th of May, and that'll be 6 o'clock on Teams. And then for South Yardley Councillor Chowdhury, yours will be Thursday, the 13th of May. Again, that's 6 o'clock on Teams. So I've put the details in the chat box. And what I will do is following on from this meeting, obviously, and perhaps early next week, I'll get those meetings set up and the links sent out as well. So at least then you'll know when those meetings are, and you can start in between, between now and then, you can start having those conversations with your residents, with your groups, to identify and work on your priorities so that when we come to the meetings, we can just, and that's the same applies to you as well, Councillor Chowdhury, when we come to the meetings, you're just you're just talking through what you've got, and then you're agreeing what you want to, what you want to concentrate on. What we don't want to do is to have that meeting where we're still trying to work out, or still having those discussions, because time really is moving against us in terms of getting the ward plan sorted. So if you can then, with residents, do a lot of your priority identifying between now and then, when we actually come to the meeting, it's just a matter of everybody agreeing and signing it all off.
Right. Okay. So just a quick one. How many wards from 69 still has to do ward plans? Any idea?
I think there's possibly
I can answer that.
Okay, thanks.
It's in terms of no wards plans coming together, it's around 10, 11, and we've got about 12 that are at amber. We have a traffic light system, which is green, amber, and red. So we have about 11 wards that are still at the red stage. So there's no plans. Amber means that work has commenced and they're just at the final stage.
And just Pat, I just want to know, you know, the first deadline for the first lot of fund to put your application in, right, is in June. So realistically, we're fighting against time, isn't it, to get that, to meet that deadline?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. But that at the moment, Council, it doesn't. Individual groups who may not have attended this meeting can also, may also want to submit applications, because it's been well publicised throughout the city and in different social platforms. So organisations and individuals will make individual applications for that funding, but it will need to come back to the respective wards for a decision on and a put forward.
Okay. And is there like a maximum amount that you can apply for?
There's between 100 and 1,000 is one pot, and then 1,000 to 5,000 is another pot, and then 5,000 to 10,000 is another stream, but it will be within the categories.
Okay. Okay, is there any other questions on this item? Councillor Zakir, anything? Or
No, okay, that's fine.
Okay, I think we can close this item. We can move on now.
Yeah.
I believe we've got both sergeants from Stechford and Sgt Yardley in attendance tonight. Can we get an update from Sgt Mahmoud, please, from Stechford?
Hello all. Instead of me just talking about things which you might not be interested in, is there any particular areas that people would like an update on?
No, well, no, just give us a brief of what's actually, because obviously the Stechford part that I cover only goes up to the train station, right? So anything up to the train station and going back into Albert Road and around that area, if there's anything that's happening or if there's any work that is being planned.
Okay, so in terms of Stechford and Yardley North, I don't know exactly where obviously each councillor covers. So I'll just give you an overview of the whole neighbourhood area, which I appreciate might not particularly tie in with yourself. So we're doing a lot of work around drugs warrants based on community intelligence, and we've had some really good results. Cannabis factories and general drug dealing. We've had a few residents that have got in touch regarding issues on their roads, again around drug dealing and people causing a general nuisance. So we followed that up, and again we've had some really good results working with residents. Pleased to say, generally in terms of COVID breaches, on the whole, it is quite good. There's very few areas. We've had a few issues at Stechford Retail Park, and the odd has called in where people are having parties and such like, where they've been dealt with. But on the whole, it's been really good. In terms of crime, there's no particular crime at the minute which is sort of really trending or we've got a particular issue with across the board. And sort of the last month, that sort of is a general flavour of what we've been up to.
Okay, literally, the issue around HMOs in Stechford, are we getting much call-outs for issues regarding HMOs in our ward?
No, that's a negative. So in terms of any issues raised, I've been doing quite a lot of work with Councillor Eustace, where he's raised a few issues. Not HMOs. On the whole, we don't have issues with HMOs. And then we've been doing some work with Councillor Marge Bridle. Apologies if I pronounced that wrong. But no HMOs, we don't really have an issue with that.
Is there any questions from any of the residents regarding issues in Stechford? No. Okay, another one, Sergeant, regarding parking, you know, around school times. Is there any work planned for making parents aware of their parking restrictions during school time?
So on the whole, we do cover all the schools. The one particular issue we had, a few people raised it, a few residents, was Cockshut Hill. We've gone past sort of education now, is enforcement. However, schools is the nature of the beast. There will always be parking issues. We can't be at every school every single day. Throughout our working set, we do target a particular school on. We try and do it every day. General patrols, a number of tickets are handed out. We've spoken to schools, letters have gone out. I mean, that's happened probably every year since people have lived there. But unfortunately, it's the nature of the beast. People will always park in silly places. I will not adhere to it. When we are there, we do enforce it.
Councillor, the crossing patrols, the school crossing patrols, one's been started back on Wash Lane, opposite Oasis Academy, Hobmore, and one's further down the road near St Bernadette's. Of course, all these crossing patrols serve children that are in your ward, but the crossing patrol that serves Debenham and all that estate round there, that has gone and hasn't been replaced. It used to be outside the main gate of the academy on the Hobmore Road, but that is missing, and residents report very dangerous parking in that section of the road, and we are very nervous that a child is going to be injured and killed. We had one in the summer. I mean, that wasn't on the Hobmore Road, but it is very dangerous for children. And with the bus stop in the middle of it all, you know, there is going to be a very nasty accident without that crossing patrol there. So I was wondering why that crossing patrol has been withdrawn, and are there any plans to reinstate it?
Okay, Andy, that's something that we can take up with the relevant officers to find out why that hasn't been replaced, because we did have a similar incident at Blakesley Primary where the warden was literally after half term, there was no sign of the warden, and when we queried it, he received a letter from the government to say that he should be shielding. So they had, by the time they were notified.
This is a shielding issue. I think this is a long-standing issue. I think this is over a year or two. There hasn't been a crossing warden there, so it'd be really good to find out what's happened.
Okay, leave that with me, Andy. I'll find out and we'll update you once we get a response back. Okay, Sergeant Mahmoud, we've got a question from Nadeem. We are seeking a police community liaison officer to attend future Stechford Village Resident Association meetings. Is this something that you can assist with?
Yeah, if you email myself, I'm more than happy to get involved. Yes, drop me an email. Or if you put your email in the comments now, I'll email you directly.
Sure thing. I'll post my email now. Thank you, Sergeant.
Okay, Sergeant, this another one, right? Literally, there's been talk while I was speaking to somebody earlier on this week, right, about setting up a neighborhood watch in Stechford. Right? Would you like? Obviously, because there is like talk of residents wanting to set it up right. Can you be supporting us in that to get this up and running?
So already we have 3 groups of residents within the Stechford and Yardley North ward who we were working with prior to lockdown, and they were interested in setting up community watch sort of / street watch groups. But obviously with COVID, that all sort of, excuse my terminology, died of death. But now we're slowly coming out of COVID. During that period, we have kept in touch with them. We're potentially looking at 3. However, 2 of the groups, because they're smaller, we're looking at merging them together. So essentially we'll have 2 groups instead of 3. But if anybody else wants to get involved, by all means, we're more the merrier.
Okay, that's fine. I think there's no other questions. Sgt Mahmoud, thank you for attending tonight. And I believe we can move on. Do we have Sergeant Burke from Site Yardley in attendance?
Hello, yes, you do.
Okay, can we please have a similar kind of update from yourself?
Yeah, so much as Oz has already stated, our first priorities at the moment remain around COVID and our policing of the current restrictions, under 25's violence, within our constituency, we've got robberies as well. So within the South Yardley ward, late last year when I joined the team, we had some issues around robberies in Oakland's recreation ground, which went on for quite some time. But we've managed to police that really well with offering overtime and things to officers, which has increased the presence of police in the area. And we've seen quite a dramatic reduction in the number of offences that have been committed. We have seen a number of crimes relating to under 25's violence, which involve and include young people who are carrying weapons with them. But again, I think that's mainly due to the fact that we've increased our policing presence in the area, and therefore we're getting more interventions with young people, which means that we're more likely to encounter them when they are actually in possession of weapons. Other than that, we are continuing to police COVID, and much like on the Stechford and Yardley North, we're seeing very few breaches, and we are simply just out and about trying to encourage people to continue to wear masks and continue to socially distance. And we've not had to issue any significant fines within the last few months. And yeah, I think that's about it. In terms of the schools, we continue to patrol the schools, but again, we're struggling with being in the right places at the right times, and we understand that there's quite a few schools, primary schools in particular, across our patch, which need some special attention and which need our presence there on school letting in and letting out times. But unfortunately, we're struggling to get across them all on one day, but we are trying our best. Domestic abuse is also one of our priorities, and whilst there has been an increase in domestic abuse that's been widely reported across the UK during lockdown, and that has been seen in South Yardley as well, we continue to make our efforts to reduce domestic abuse by assisting with arresting offenders and supporting victims where we're able to safeguard them. Is there any questions?
Right, sorry, Councillor Chaudhry, can I come in, please? I got a couple of questions regarding the schools. I am getting a lot of complaints outside Gilbertstone School, and also the street goes next to that is Brindle Close. Residents being ticketed on their cars. They live there, and there are only about 8 or 10 properties, and I think quite a few of them being ticketed, and they are asking me, where do they go? Because school time, parents come and pick their kids up and they park their cars up there, and when their cars are parked, their residents' cars being ticketed as well. So what can we do on that issue, please?
Okay, so sorry, just to clarify, there are issues with the residents' cars being ticketed because, as well as during operations that are designed to target the people who are attending the school. Okay. That's fine. I'll have a chat with my PCSOs about that. Obviously, if people are parking inconsiderately, we are still well within our rights to issue tickets if they are parking in a way that would cause an obstruction, or seem to be inappropriate, I suppose is the word that I would use. Then unfortunately they still fall at the risk of being issued with a ticket, and it's everybody's responsibility to park sensibly and considerately for other people, regardless of whether you're a resident or whether you're just somebody who's attending the school for pick-up time and dropping off time. However, what we will do is we'll go and do some letter drops, and I'll have a word with the school to see if we can do some release a notice on their newsletter to just remind parents about parking and things.
Right. The issue we got is, when parents come to drop their kids out, pick their kids up, they park there, and the residents who are living there, then they have nowhere to park, and then they probably park somewhere inconsiderably, different places, and then that's why, that's the reason. That's why they park there, because they can't park outside their property. And,
I understand that, and
you understand that, yeah.
I understand the frustrations of the community. However, it is everybody's responsibility to make sure that they park within the law, regardless of whether or not it's because you can't park outside your house, unfortunately. But I'll make sure that I go out and visit those residents and do a bit of door knocking, and we'll try and come to some sort of agreement with the local school around how we can try and mitigate those incidents.
Thank you very much for that. And if you could please visit those, as I said, there are only about 8 properties, and I think almost everybody's been ticketed, and they're not happy.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I will make sure I go out and do a door knock.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a question in the chat box from Rachel regarding Lily Road inside Yardley. She's reported a number of drug dealing on Lily Road to police online, which seems to be increasing, especially around the HMOs. Can anything more be done to tackle this?
Okay, so yeah, when you report when drug dealing is reported to us as an organisation or a service, we submit what's called intelligence, and then we have to try and gather enough intelligence in order to be able to make some meaningful to do some meaningful stuff around it. So I really appreciate Rachel giving us that intelligence, and that's really helpful, and it helps to build our bigger picture. So whilst Rachel might not necessarily see us doing any interventions on Lily Road, it might be that we stop those cars later on in a different area and we have an intervention with them there. It might be that actually we're just still trying to build up our intelligence picture so that we can go to the courts and get warrants and things like that, dependent upon what the intelligence is that's being received. So I understand the frustration of communities when they don't see an immediate result coming out from the phone call that they've made. However, it is one of those where we have to try and build our picture up, and it takes quite a lot of information and intelligence in order to be able to do that. And then we have lots of different ways of trying to target drug dealers. So it might be that we have intelligence logs on their cars, which means that when they are stopped by ANPR, people with automatic number plate recognition, that they have the intelligence available to them so that then they get searched. It might be that a warrant is being drawn up and we need to go to the courts for it, but the courts might need more intelligence, basically. So thank you, Rachel, for continuing to give us that intelligence, and it's not going unnoticed. It's just that building that picture is quite, it can take some time for us to be able to make the most best of interventions.
Sorry, can I come in, please, Councillor Chaudhry? Right. Regarding the Lily Road, I have a lot of complaints about HMO properties. There's about, I think, 3 or 4 properties recently turned into HMOs. And there's a lot of drug dealing and antisocial behavior issues. Could you please look into those as well? And also on Church Road, there's 3-4 HMO properties again, and I'm getting a lot of complaints from the residents antisocial behavior, drug dealing, and kids sitting on the road, on people's walls. And if you could look.
Yeah, absolutely. We are doing a lot of work around the antisocial behaviour, and there is a lot of work currently going on in the South Yardley constituent, or within the South Yardley ward, which for me is obviously a much bigger area than what you cover, councillor, but around HMOs and around our street community and the beggars that we have within the area. So again, I know it's not the answer that you want to hear because people want to see things change straight away, but sometimes these things take a lot longer, and exempt accommodation and HMOs are an issue across Birmingham, and it's just something that we're trying to develop our work on. But there's definitely a presence of police officers on Lily Road and on within the Yew Tree and Church Road, because we do have issues with antisocial behaviour, not just associated with the HMOs, but also associated, again, if we go back to the under 25s violence, that's something that we're seeing quite a lot of it within that area.
Right. Okay. Sorry, you just mentioned also the beggars. So I mean, every day they're increasing, and they're if you go on Community Road just by Oakland Park, and just outside Lidl, and on that junction, and there are so many, and they keep changing the shift. Like they're working on shift. You see different people every day. So what update have you got on that?
So at the moment, we've got an operation running where we are issuing some community protection notices and community protection warnings to the beggars within the whole of the South Yardley area. To be fair, we have issued them to people at the Yew Tree, we've issued them to people on the Coventry Road, and essentially what that is it's a warning to say there's a couple of prohibitions on it. One of them's not to beg within the area. Another is to not sleep rough, and just things like there's lots of different things that we can put in. So we're issuing those at the moment. Alongside that, we're also making sure that we've got the presence of our partner agencies, so drug and housing and healthcare are coming in, and they are doing interventions with people as and when we see them on the street. And then I'm currently looking at and in communications with the antisocial behaviour manager at Birmingham City Council in relation to potentially getting a public space protection order put in place within the South Yardley area to try and reduce the risk of or trying to give us another method, another element of control over the begging issue, because it's obviously it can be a bit of an issue, because if we arrest somebody for begging, we take them in, they get put before the courts, and essentially they'll only ever be given a fine, which then means they have to come out and beg further in order to be able to pay the fine, as well as fund their lifestyle that they're currently living. So there's lots of work which is going on, and we are taking action against the beggars. We're also looking to support them because we understand that they are vulnerable members of our community, and we're just trying to alleviate the issues as best we can. But Councillor, you're absolutely right. As quickly as we issue a warning to one person, that person disappears and a new person is in their place, and we're having to issue lots of those warnings out. So that's currently where we're at. There is ongoing work. It's not just an issue for South Yardley, it's a Birmingham-wide issue, and we are working with the Pan Birmingham partnerships to try and help to reduce the issues and to try and find a way of not necessarily just moving them on to the next area, but trying to actually negate the issues in full.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. And I get one more question, then I'll leave to some of the residents if they want to ask question. My next question is, I am getting a lot of complaints from the residents of Woodcock Lane, and there are some by the bridge, leading to Acre on the bridge, drug dealing issues. I know you have done some action previously, but I'm still getting complaints, and also speeding issue. is, very on top of the agenda up there as well. So could you please brief us if anything is happening around that side?
Laura, can I just cut in there, mate?
You got Kush can.
So, Councillor, regarding that issue you raised, I previously worked on the South Yardley Ward, and we still do joint work at the area. So that bridge which you talk about at the top of the road,
Yes.
A number of residents said we've got a drug dealing issue. Anyone that says they've got any issue with drugs, it's a passion of mine to deal with drug dealers and get them off our streets. I invited all the residents into the police station. There was a big commotion in the police station. Everyone was shouting and screaming about how horrendous this was. I personally gave every single resident my email address and said if they can email at particular times, what was going on, and I did not get back one response. Since then, we have been back, and the odd time we do get a child there, but because it's a cut through, sometimes kids will linger. The young kids who live in that area who are not drug dealing, but around that area, there are a number of children who their parents have bought them bikes as a means of exercise, and that seems to be a bit of a stop for them from where they're coming from to going back home. But yeah, I've never had anything back, Councillor. So I appreciate they're coming to you, but I directly gave them my email address and not one person emailed me back.
Right. Okay. So if in future if they come back to me, and could I pass them their message to you?
Absolutely, Councillor. But my not an issue, but I took the time to invite all these people into the police station, and I spoke to every single one of them, and they were all personally given. I can say I personally gave every person my email address, and not one person emailed me back. We continue the work, but we've not, on our side, found any evidence of drug dealing. The odd time we found an empty cannabis sort of bag. As I said, there's a few kids which we stopped, but to a wholly innocent, they were just stopping there for a bit of a break on their cycle arm. But yeah, in terms of residents, nobody did get back to me.
Right. Well, sometimes residents don't want to come forward. That's the issue, isn't it? So, I mean, there are some concerns up there because I've been a couple of times. I've been called, and I see a lot of young kids hanging around. I understand you're trying to say that some of them just young kids sit down on the there, but I'm getting a lot of complaints, especially around that area. But if you're looking into that, that's fine. Thank you.
I think that message needs to be passed on to us live time, because that's when we can that's when we can intervene. But if we don't hear about it for weeks, then it's really difficult for us to get that meaningful intervention and get down there when there's drug dealing issues. So I'm more than happy for it to come via you, but essentially we need to try and build our intelligence picture again around it, and then that's how we get more resources into the area. So that information needs to be fed into us so that we can feed it into our relevant police computer systems, so that then we can get resourcing in that area.
Okay, that's fine. Then I'll encourage residents if they have any issues, in their area regarding drug dealing or antisocial behavior.
Yeah, and to reassure them. Yeah, to reassure them, all of our intelligence is anonymised. So I understand that they might not want to be seen to be grassing to us, but nobody would ever know where that intelligence came from. It's all anonymised, and we never point the finger at any residents around where it came from.
That's fine. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, Sergeant Burke, I've got an issue in my ward, Yardley West, issue of antisocial behaviour around Besborough Road, Carcraft, that leads out onto Homley Road and Fieldhouse, and residents are I believe the police kind of know who the instigators are of the stuff that's going on there, and residents want more to be done, because you get speeding cars at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and they're revving their cars and all sorts, and we just feel like the police ain't doing. They should be doing more, really, to tackle this. I have emailed this across last week, which I've not had a response back. So something that I'd like you to look into, please.
Yeah, I will have a look into that one. I know that there are some issues around there, particularly with cars being. I think there's a business which is operating out of that out of that location, which causes some issues. I was talking to my PCSOs about it today, which is why I haven't managed to respond to you yet, because I was trying to get fully appraised on it. So yeah, I will look into that one.
Sorry, is there any other questions for the sergeant? Okay, there's another one that's come through once. Please, after this. Okay, there's another one from Rachel. I don't know if you can answer this or not, but well, I'll read it out. I don't think there is a police issue, but there is a vulnerable young adult who is often at the U3 or Swan Centre hanging around. I know he used to attend a special needs school that my husband used to work at.
Sorry, can you just repeat that one? I missed that.
Sorry. Okay, it's from Rachel, right? And it's a question around a vulnerable young adult who's seen hanging around at the U3 Swan Centre. Is there anything that we can do to help him or get him off the streets?
Yeah, if Rachel can drop me an email with his details, I will. I'll have a little look into that, because yeah, that's fine. But obviously, without more information, I'm going to struggle to actually action on it. Does Rachel have my email address, or shall I? I'll pop it into the.
I was going to say, if you put it in the chat, then we can.
Fabulous. I will do that now.
Okay. Is there any other questions or anything related? Anybody? Okay, we've got another hands up. Shamaila, do you want to ask your question? Shamaila, you might be on mute. If you want to take yourself off mute, if you want to ask the question, please.
Hello there. I'm Shamala's husband. My name's H. A few you may know me. I believe Zafar Iqbal brother knows me from the bathroom shop.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been living in this area for nearly 30 years. So I kind of know a lot of people within the areas. Now, regarding drug problem is a massive problem. You see drug dealing going on every single street, you know, to be honest with you, from Clements down to Homley, down to Debenham. Myself, I clock them many times. Now, stopping drug dealing or the youths is have a problem in the area. What we need to do with the youths is get the youths off the streets. Getting the youth off the street, the only way that's going to happen is some kind of services provided, apprentice, some kind of learning skills. You know, I'm in the building game myself. It's very hard to find skilled people. You know, a lot of these youth getting out of schools, colleges, no educations, nothing to do. Glamour, drugs is all over the place. They've got no skill left either. There's no places where we can teach them. I've got quite a few elderly people who work with me who's master craftsmen, and their craft with them will die away. How can we get the children off the streets first, then start dealing with the drug dealers? Because drug dealers is not a small problem. Drug dealers is a big problem. Everyone could say the police can only do a certain amount. The public, to be honest with you, they don't want to get involved. They will see it turn the cheek, drug dealers. But if you had main heads, main people you got involved from main areas who actually had a little bit of a reputation, unfortunately I have to use that word reputation, it would actually help quite a lot, you know, sir. This is my little input towards you lot. If any of you need my number, you can contact my wife, Shamala. If I can help in bettering the area, please give us an opportunity. Let's see what we can do.
Thank you for that. If you can leave your telephone number, contact details in chat box, and then we will get in touch with you. Thank you.
Oh, Councillor, can I just say, can you not put any personal information in the chat box? Councillors, you can put your email addresses in the chat box by all means, But residents, please don't put your personal details in the chat box because that is available for everyone to see. So I just need to make that absolutely clear.
Okay, sorry about that. Thanks.
Apologies in relation to that gentleman who was offering his assistance. If he can drop me an email with his contact details on, I'll get in touch with him and we'll see what we can progress.
Thank you.
Okay, I think if there's no other questions, I believe we can close this item and then move on to councillors' update, because I am conscious of time as well. So if there's no more questions, I'm happy to close this item. Okay, Rachel is typing, but I'm not sure. Okay, we can close this item.
I've got no more questions. Thank you. Right.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, we can close this item. Thank you, Sergeant Burke, for attending this evening. And hopefully, if there is any issues, we've got your email address now, so we can always direct them towards you. And
yes, Sergeant Mahmoud, thank you as well.
Thank you, councillors.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Sergeant.
Okay, Councillor Zaka, can we have a brief update on anything that's been going on in your ward, please?
Right. Okay. Okay. To start with, we have set up on Facebook this group called South Yardley Litter Champions, and I'm getting very good feedback. And we are started to clean up our area. Swan, we have done some actions. We have done some actions on Cllr land by yew tree, by cemetery, and also we have done clean up in Oakland Park. So I am requesting all residents of South Yardley, if they got any issues, any problems, please do come back to me, my email. They can email me or they can get in touch with me on my telephone number, which they have got most of them. And any issues, any problems, we need to, get on top of things. And especially if you get any drug issues, as we was just talking, please do come back with, your details and concerns, and we'll pick them up and I'll pass them on to sergeants for our area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just give you a brief update of what's going on in Yardley West and Stechford. This financial year's ward minor measures we're looking to spend. We're going to be spending some on Cllr Avenue, and also we're looking at speed calming measures on Wash Lane, because there has been a number of accidents due to speeding on that road. So we are looking at spending some of that money on Wash Lane, but at the moment we're not sure of how much we've been allocated. But having spoken to the district engineer earlier on in the week, we have agreed that whatever is available, we're going to be looking to spend on Wash Lane. So that's probably, we had £10,000 last year, so we're looking around the same mark probably this time around as well. So once we have anything further on that, we'll update you. We were supposed to have a meeting yesterday regarding the recreational ground on Yardley Fields Road, but that had to be postponed, and we've rearranged that for 10th of May now. So I'm sure we've had a good response from the residents regarding, the work that hopefully will be taking place in the fields. And I'm sure there is a lot of organizations that are looking to work with us to improve the fields and bring it back into life, really. So hopefully we'll be able to update you in the next couple of weeks once we've had our meetings and we know where we stand with all the plans that are and recommendations that have come in. So hopefully we should be moving forward with something positive around there. And fly tipping, it's an ongoing battle we're having. We are picking up rubbish wherever it's seen or reported. We actually do get it picked up within a matter of days, but the problem is it keeps on coming back. And what we need now is more residents to be eyes and ears to let us know if they see anybody dumping it, please give us the details so we can pass it on to the enforcement team and, you know, let them deal with it. Because we're kind of fed up of having to pick up fly tipping now as well. So it's an ongoing battle, but it's something that we're not going to give up on, and hopefully we continue. With both wards, South Yardley and Yardley West, are clean. They're not perfect, but they're better than most. So it's, we just have to keep on going there. And as Councillor Zakir has said, there's a group been set up, Yardley Litter Champions. If you're not already joined, please, I would say join that group, because it's an opportunity for residents to organize litter cleanups in the ward, right? And they can post it on there, and then we can actually get members who are part of that group to come along and help us. And we've already had about 3 or 4 cleanups inside Yardley, and we've got another one planned on the 1st of May at 10 o'clock in the Oaklands, which we're classing it as a big May Day cleanup for the Oaklands. And we've had it advertised now for about 2 days, and the response, we're getting a pretty good response from residents who are actually saying, yes, we're going to be part of this, and all equipment will be provided. So literally what we need, right, is more people. We need more hands on deck, right, to actually come out and help us clean the Oaklands. Because we did have a small cleanup on Saturday, and 5 of us actually turned up. And when it kind of disheartens you when there's only 5 of you, and when you look at the task ahead of you and you just think 5 of you ain't going to manage not even a quarter of it. So we did what we could for 2 hours, and then we all had to go elsewhere. So hopefully May the 1st, right, is have a big cleanup for the Oaklands, and I'm pretty confident that we will get at least 15 to 20 people turn up, and if not more, the more the merrier, really. So I'm hoping that we can actually make a big difference in the Oaklands.
Sorry, Councillor, can I come in, please? Councillor Chaudhary.
Yes, go on.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, if anybody needs the litter pickers or anything, we can provide them. So please come along and help us to keep our wards, especially South Yardley and Stechford, clean. Because we don't want to let our wards get worse than some of these other wards. We have to stay on top of things and try to minimize the litter. And especially around Swan, we've got a lot of issues, a lot of problems, and we are tackling. And I hope that most of the residents will consider this and come along and help us out. On 1st of May, will have a big cleanup, and it will be much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And literally, if there's any residents that want to arrange a cleanup, and let us know beforehand, and then we can always arrange for the equipment to be delivered. And the bags, once you've had your cleanup, we can always get the bags picked up as well from Redfern Depot. So it's only a matter, it's about organizing an event, put it together, get it shared on Facebook, and we can work together as a community to actually make a difference in the ward. And like they say, if your area is clean, it makes a big difference, right? So a lot of these roads are actually clean, but a bit of tidy up here and there won't hurt. So if anybody wants to consider, and there's a lot of community groups in across Yardley and Stechford. So I would say to the Stechford groups to please come along as well on the 1st of May, and let's make a difference. And then hopefully we can, the Yardley groups can come to Stechford as well when Stechford organizes a cleanup and come and help there. So we can work together and make a big difference. Okay, that's an update from both of our councillors. If there's any questions, please either raise your hands or put it in the chat box so we can take that question. Okay, there's no hands, and Is there any questions that anybody wants to ask or anything? Because we can, Zaka, in the chat box, can you please put your email address? Or I will put both of ours in the chat box. And all I would say is at the end of the day, it's working with residents, with us as councillors, right? We can get stuff done for you, but it's up to the residents to actually, you are the eyes and ears of the wards. So please, if there is any issues of concern, please let either myself or Councillor Zaka know, and we're more than happy to, help you where possible. Okay, Councillor Zaka, is there anything else that you want to add to this?
Councillor Baz, I think Shamala's got his hand up. His or her hand up.
Okay, can we, Shamala, do you want to come in? Is there anything that you want to ask for?
No, it's okay. My husband did have an issue, but it's been covered, I think. Yeah, it's been covered.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Zaka, is there anything that you want to, your final remarks? I can see he's typing, but. Okay, I think we've covered pretty much most of it tonight, and we've got dates set for our next ward meeting. So please, I would say that please attend both these ward meetings and let's put this plan together, and let's, basically let's look to spend the money that we've been allocated and showcase the best of both wards, really. So, Councillor Zaka, do you want to come in?
Yeah. Sorry, can I thank everybody for playing their part, and especially Beverly and Pat, and arranging this meeting. I think it was our first meeting, and we had good response. Thank you for that.
Okay, I've just put both email addresses in the chat box. So if there's any issues that people want to email us with, please do so. And both our mobile numbers are on the council website as well. So if you want to contact us via the mobile, please do so. We're happy to help if possible. Okay, Beverly, I think, is that everything covered now?
Yes, councillors, I think that's everything now. So thank you everybody for your attendance and your active participation, and to you two councillors as well. The meeting dates are in the chat box, but I'll also send reminders out along with the meeting links as well. So we can get, we can start the ball rolling. So thanks everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm happy to close this meeting. Thank you very much for attending. On behalf of both myself and Councillor Zaka, please stay safe, continue to follow the government guidelines, and let's hope in a couple of weeks' time, when everything's lifted, hopefully we can get back to some kind of normality, and then we can have face-to-face meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.